My name is Tom Sharples, and my presentation is entitled Computer Simulation as a Teaching Tool, Thermopylae and the Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator. I would like to recount the enjoyably organic process of utilizing battle simulations found on YouTube as a teaching tool for analyzing Herodotus's description of the Battle of Thermopylae. It began with an email from Professor Johnson who asked, I'm aiming to find the best visual example of how the Battle of Thermopylae would have played out in relation to terrain. To this end, I was wondering what your thoughts are on the following from YouTube. Would it work in terms of accuracy? The email contained a link which took me to a video by a content creator, Samsonite, that showed a recreation of the last stand of Leonidas and his 300 Spartans against 20,000 Persian foot soldiers using the Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator. I'm an avid computer gamer myself, and thus this is a wonderful opportunity to integrate two of my passions into a teaching tool. In the opening minutes, I could see that Samsonite had attempted to accurately replicate the narrow pass and the formation of the Spartan hoplites, with some wonderful aerial shots to give a sense of scale, then focused sweeping pans to show the piles of dead Persian bodies. So in the image on the left, you can see one of these such aerial shots, with the 300 Spartans focused here on the narrow pass, with many dead bodies behind, and then tens of thousands of Persian soldiers moving towards the Spartans. Unfortunately, what initially appeared to be an interesting recreation turned to farce, with the programmer anachronistically having nuclear bombs dropping on the Persians, and then a sort of breath of God finishing them off, possibly due to boredom. So as you can see in the image on the right, there's a nuclear blast going off. So you can see one of the commands, press N to use selected God power nuke. So that doesn't really do much for historical accuracy or as a teaching tool. However, a quick search led me to a more serious channel, Baron Von Games, that used the same video simulator, but unlike the Samsonite video, had attempted to depict the last stand as accurately as possible, with improvements in the topography and Spartan formation. So you can see here all the Spartans lining up against the Persian onslaught. And unlike, you can't see it in the pictures that I had, but the Samsonite video is quite green and there's even a waterfall. So the topography was really not that accurate. But here we've got the nice, dry, arid region of northern Greece where Thermopylae is located. So my first goal as an historian, after establishing that this video was useful, was then to also establish what we actually know about the confrontation. And in this case, our best source is Herodotus. I consulted the relevant chapters from histories and made notes on the most interesting elements. The reality is that most students will not be inclined to read even excerpts of the text, which is interesting because at least 50% of the students that I was tutoring were actually secondary education students. But as teachers ourselves, we need to give a flavour of the origins of these tales. So like parents, we must hide the information like vegetables and bolognese sauce, hoping the recipients don't realise they're absorbing it. Thus, I decided to provide commentary over the simulation and compare what was being depicted on screen with Herodotus's account, writing a script, but also allowing for improvisation to make the video also seem natural in tone. So I actually used the Robin Waterhouse translation, and here's an excerpt describing the pass at Thermopylae. So what I would do is I would talk about how Herodotus described Thermopylae and compare it to the battle simulation in real time. So to give you a flavor, I'm going to play approximately a minute of the lecture just to give you an idea of what it is that I did. But a Malian by the name of Ephialtes actually offered to lead the Persians down a mountain path to Thermopylae, so actually encircling behind the Greek forces, which would circumvent the attacking force that was facing them and lead to their ruin from behind. And so that's actually what happened on the second day. So as you can see, this is the first day, and look at what's already happening. I mean, the bodies are absolutely piling up because this is a practicality of what they were doing. I mean, this is only 20,000. And as you can see, the Persians are starting to encircle them, but the Spartans are sort of turning to face them. But look at the sea of bodies. I mean, that's literally what it would have been like as the battle was happening. So it's at this point that Herodotus, so after the first 2 days, so again, this is don't forget, this is the final day of the battle. So there's been 2 days of battle prior to this. And it's at this point that Herodotus begins to hint the battle may be an example of heroic fate and sacrifice. He says during book 7, chapter 219, that the first sign of the Greeks had a betrayal was that a diviner read in a sacrificial animal that death would come to them at the dawn of what was the 3rd day of fighting. So this is the 3rd day. What I didn't realize at the time is that Professor Johnson's request regarding the utilization of YouTube to help teach a key battle from antiquity is part of a greater movement in pedagogy. In a journal article written in October of this year, entitled "The Impact of YouTube Video on the Student's Learning," the authors state the following: "Good quality education is based mainly on how well students attain the knowledge. One way to achieve this is to simplify the content and make it as intuitive as possible. Using YouTube videos encourages students to look for similar videos and get a habit of using YouTube as an educational resource. The only challenge is the evaluation of the reliability of the content. And for that reason, content selection has to be done by the instructor." So as you saw with the Samsonite video and the use of the nuclear blasts, obviously it's very important as educators that we vet these videos, because it would have been very embarrassing if I had allowed that video to be viewed by the students and then the nukes start going off. This paper also reports that grades improve when YouTube is used to help deliver content, as opposed to a more traditional setting of purely lecture-based material. While this analysis was performed on a computer science class, I believe it could be just as effective for ancient history. From my own early evaluation when completing a tutorial discussion and marking an associated paper on Thermopylae, which featured another more infamous depiction of the battle, I noticed that an understanding of the exaggeration of the legend of Sparta, a downplaying of their Greek allies, and an appreciation for the details of the Greek terrain were all apparent in the student responses. So as you can see here, this tutorial was focused on 300, but we're able to also use the battle simulation to discuss current depictions of Thermopylae and how it relates to the original Herodotean account. As a tutor, this is wonderful to see, with students gaining an appreciation for the tendency for modern interpretations of antiquity to take liberties with the facts. But rather than denigrate these art forms, it is much more useful to promote an approach that incorporates technology and other disciplines such as programming and video production and editing. What I learned from this experience is that you should never skip an opportunity to use new methods when delivering material on the ancient world. Just because we're teaching concepts related to antiquity doesn't mean our pedagogical methods need to be ancient as well. Thank you.